soon. I forgot to. All right. Hey, welcome. It's the 10:59 Facebook Live time that I do most days of the week, four days a week, Monday through Friday on Facebook. Just added doing them on YouTube as well. And I thought today is a live demonstration of some core exercises to include in your strength program. So I wanted to include the Instagram group as well so that you guys can see what those exercises are. These are all exercises that you're familiar with, and I'm going to be demonstrating them today so that you just have an idea of what exercises you are going to want to include in a well-structured strength program. Now, for those of you who have been on Facebook and have been following me over the January and February, you understand that February is planning month. And so we're really planning out what your strength program is going to be. And in yesterday's Facebook live broadcast, we talked about core exercises and assistance exercises. And on Wednesdays, I like to do some sort of practical application. And so that's why we have a slightly different change of setting. Normally, I will be doing, I just sort of talk about different things. But on Wednesdays, as I said, I like to be a little bit more practical so that you have something to work with on your own or with your trainer. So today, again, we're going to be going over some core exercises. We're going to show some body weight exercises, and then I have a barbell set up behind here, a barbell exercise, the barbell exercise version of those same core exercises, and then also some kettlebell versions as well, so that you got a nice variety of what you might be able to incorporate into your strength program. And I only have one 8-pound pair of dumbbells, so 8 pounds each. Dumbbells are the one things that I'm lacking in, so I can't go too in depth with dumbbells, but we will do what we can do. So again, we have the quote of the day. This will be new to any Instagram people who are watching this, but the Facebook viewers understand that each day that I'm live in this 10:59 time slot, I do a quote of the day. And today's quote comes from Dennis R. Deaton, and I'm going to bring it up here. So on Facebook, you can see this. I'm using a software called StreamYard, and so it actually streams to Facebook and now YouTube at the same time, and you can actually see the banner. There's a banner that comes up, and you can see that. So for you people on Instagram, you don't have that because I don't have that connection. They don't have that connection established yet. So the quote of the day is: to gain strength, think about what you say only what you mean, and be your word. Dennis R. Deaton. So the strength they're talking about, sort of like internal strength, that confidence that you have in yourself. And this is similar to one of the 4 agreements, Carlos Castaneda, which is be impeccable with your words. So really just say what you mean and then stick to your word. So that's a way to build strength. And when we build strength in what we say and how we act, when those things are congruent and in line with each other, we are more, we we build self-confidence in ourselves. That's what I'm trying to say. And it's through small actions repeated over time. Dream is, oh, there it's back now, is to really be very intentional and aware of what you say and mean what you say, and then follow it up with action. So thanks, Dennis R. Deaton, for the quote of the day. And let's get on to the core exercises. So I'm going to have to just hide this banner over here on the Facebook thing. And let's get to the core exercises. So yesterday we were talking about core and assistance exercises. And there's a couple of different ways to think about core and assistance exercises. The core exercises are your main focus of your training. And then the assistance exercises round out your training, either in terms of prehabilitation, which is like to prevent injury, rehabilitation, which is if you have an injury, you might have to do some assistance exercises to get the injured area up to strength before you can start doing more of the major lifts. That's one way. And to also, the other way to use assistance lifts is as a rounding out of your training, so you don't get imbalances in your body. So those are three ways to use assistance exercises. The core exercises, as I said, are like the main exercises, the main focus of your training. And so one of the things that you want to consider with your core exercises are that they should really be whole body exercises, multi-joint exercises. So for example, I'm just going to do a body weight squat. So I do this is actually a Hindu squat here. I'm down on my down up on my toes here. I have my ankles. This actually, the Hindu squat is bringing in my toes, my ankles, my knees, and my hips, right? Those I'm using, I have 4 joints that are being used in this Hindu squat. So that's a lot. So your core exercises tend to be more multi-joint. When you think about doing a deadlift, so we'll demonstrate that. You have some ankle, some knee, and a lot of hip, right? Multi-joint. Same thing with a bench press, multi-joint. Elbows and shoulders, bent over row, elbows and shoulders. So these multi-joint exercises are going to make up the bulk of your core exercises because they're multi-joint. They involve a lot of muscle mass. That's another aspect of the core exercises, is they involve a lot of muscle mass so that you get more muscle engagement for a single exercise. That way you get more bang for your buck with the exercise, right? So the big ones that you want to consider are the deadlift, the squat, some sort of pressing movement. So like a bench press, which is a horizontal press, or an overhead press, which is a vertical press, some sort of pulling movement. So this bent over row is a pulling movement, or a pull-up is another pulling movement. And then we also have power cleans in there. Mark Ripito, Starting Strength, he includes power cleans as a core exercise because the power movement, like the power clean and the snatch, they are what sort of transfer your maximal strength, which you're doing by doing like squats and deadlifts, to more usable strength, which is you get that through your power movement. So because strength is sort of your ability to move a heavy object. Power is your ability to move a heavy object fast. And really in sports and life, we tend to use more power than just maximal strength. So they go hand in hand, but the power clean is one exercise that you can use to transform sort of maximal strength into more usable strength, you could say. So let's get to a few exercises, body weight exercises that you can do to improve, that would be considered a core exercise. So I'm going to, here, let me move this mat like this. I have to make sure that I'm in this frame for on the Facebook as well. So push-up. So a push-up is, there you go. Core strength exercise, right? We all know push-up. For the side view of sorts, down, up, right? And you can make the push-up more difficult or make it easier by raising your hands. You make it easier. Raising your feet, you make it more difficult. Lifting one foot makes it more difficult. Lifting one hand makes it more difficult. So there's ways to make the push-up more difficult in terms of building strength, right? So the push-up would be a core body weight exercise. The body weight squat is, I want to just make sure I don't do the Hindu squat. I've been doing a lot of those lately. So the squat, the body weight squat, just come down till your legs are parallel to the ground, your thighs are parallel to the ground. Just push your butt back and down. Now, today's video is demonstration purposes. This is not an instructional video on how to do these exercises. It's just so you have an idea of what exercises you can choose from in order to incorporate them into your strength program. So you have these push-ups and you have body weight squats. Those are going to be two main ones. To make the squat more difficult, you could move to a single leg squat. This is something that I am working on. I'm not very good at these. I need more depth and more strength in my legs for this, but a single leg squat. And then the pistol squat is sort of the ultimate of the single leg squats. So those are some squat ideas. The push-ups, again, you can vary where you position your hands, but we're not going to get into that. Just for basic purposes, 2 core body weight exercises, push-ups and body weight squat. The pull-up, or just a straight arm hang. So my pull-up apparatus is in the garage over here, and so I won't be able to demonstrate a pull-up today, but you have pull-ups that you can do as a body weight exercise for your upper body, and you can do those with your hands, palms facing away from you, which is supinated, palms facing towards you, which is pronated, and you could also just do straight arm hangs like this. You could hang off a bar and just hang there for a certain number of seconds. Those are a few options for body weight, upper body exercises, core exercises. Then for the sort of the deadlift sort of variation, the deadlifts type of exercises, the hinging exercises for body weight are a little bit trickier because those exercises lend themselves better to using some type of implement. But you have the single leg Romanian deadlift like this, where requires staying balanced on your foot. So pushing your foot back, having a little bit of knee bend, but a lot of hip bend. And then you can just, as you get good at these, you can add weight to them if you have weight to add to them. And you would switch legs and do it on your other leg as well. So this is a good one to work the hamstrings and the glutes, right? Gotta pay attention to the balance while you're doing them. So with the video and all that stuff going on, sometimes I lose my balance. So push-ups, some kind of push-ups, some kind of body weight squat, and this single leg Romanian deadlift and a pull-up. Those could be 4 main exercises that you could use as body weight, starting body weight exercises, as core exercises for your program. Moving on, we're going to move on to the barbell now as our instrument, and we'll finish it off with kettlebells. So with the barbell, you just notice I don't have a bench in here. That's also in the garage. That's something that I'm working on. I want to get a power rack that I can put over here. It'll make it a little bit comfortable because the garage is not heated. And it is, so let's see. I'm fully in the screen over here with that. I'm going to just, give me 1 second. I'm just going to move this. There we go. Let's try that. Okay. So for barbell exercises, again, a squat, deadlift, bench press, some kind of bench press, overhead press, and again, we will demonstrate the power clean here. You don't, the body weight exercise that you could use for developing power is either a vertical jump or a standing long jump. And, you know, let me roll this back. The standing long jump is probably the easiest one. And for demonstration purposes, we'll just do a quick one here. So standing long jump, you're standing with 2 feet, you're just like that. So that exercise pulls in this strong hip hinge movement, right? And so that's a body weight alternative to your power clean as one of your core exercises. So we're going to start with the deadlift first. And so again, this is not an instructional video, so I'm not going to instruct how to do the exercise. This is just a demonstration of what a couple of options are for you for the deadlift. We have a conventional deadlift, which looks like this. So there you have the deadlift, conventional deadlift, super straightforward. It's a great exercise. It is really the best exercise for building your posterior chain. So all the muscles on the back of your body, your glutes, your hips, your glutes, your hamstrings, the extensor muscles in your back. And if you do deadlifts regularly, you won't have back problems. If you have back problems and you go about learning the deadlift properly, it can help you sort of overcome back problems as well. So again, it builds that's very strong, powerful posterior chain. Plus, because you're hanging onto the bar, you are getting some upper body work. So it's one of the exercises that builds super strength. It's the best for building like maximal strength. So again, the deadlift like this. The other thing is you don't need a spotter. Like if you get to like here and you can't do it, you can put it back down on the ground. You can drop it if you have bumper plates on it. I do them with bumper plates. Ideally, you wouldn't drop it. You would place it down on the ground, but you might get to the point where you can't do that and you can drop it. So there's no spotters needed, which makes this a nice exercise as well. So there is the deadlift. We will demonstrate a deadlift using the kettlebell later. Now, there is what's called the sumo deadlift, which uses a wider stance, and your hands are in between your legs instead of outside your legs. And the variation you get in, you tend to have a more vertical torso in this lift as well. It's sort of like, some people call it the reverse squat, because you're starting down in the squat position and standing up, rather than starting in a standing position and going down into the squat. What essentially differentiates a squat from the deadlift, and this is really on a continuum. Generally, the deadlift, is more hip hinge oriented, so the hips stay in between the knees and the shoulders. And when you do a squat, you are going down to where your hips become sort of level with your knees. So you have a lot more knee bend like that. And if you were doing a power squat, then this crease that's formed here in your hip region has to go below your knees in order for it to count. So the continuum of squat to hinge is sort of sometimes focused on what muscles are being focused on, as well as the sort of position of your back, where if your back is more upright as opposed to being more bent over. So there's the deadlift. Now we will do a squat for you, and there's a multitude of squats you can use. We will show you a back squat and a front squat. These are two classic ones. So we're going to start with the front squat, and have to get the bar into position. Normally you would use a rack for this, but it's possible with a light enough weight to get into position. So the stance is a little wider with the squat, and here you go, down and up. That's a front squat. Down and up, like so. Now, to do a back squat, normally, as I said, I don't have a rack in here, so I'm just doing this from, I have a light enough weight that I can press this overhead and then put this behind my back like so. So now, normally I would step into my rack and get this situated. I have my hands on the bar. You can see I'm holding it like this. We'll go at an angle here. Again, take my wide stance. I have my bar. This is generally where I have it is called a low rack position, but that's, again, more technical. This is more demonstration purposes. So then, butt down, come down. Two. So we're going to push this up and off. So again, with the squats, you can see you have movement, ankles, knees, and hips. Your back is staying in a neutral position as you come down, and the position of the bar moving from back to front. When the bar's on your back, you're going to have your upper body is going to be leaned over more. When the bar is more in the front, you're going to have a more upper torso. And these differences are choices to make in terms of learning the squat, as well as what they emphasize. So the squat and the deadlifts are two main exercises for doing that are want to be core exercises in your program. If you have access to a barbell, deadlifts and squats are two ones that you want to consider. I put the deadlift first, and I use other types of squats to work on most of the time. And then for a period of time, I'll work on building up my actual like back squat or front squat as an exercise. So there's bench press and overhead press as two other exercises. Now, I generally, again, my bench pressing situation is in the garage. So I'm going to show you a version just for demonstration purposes that you can use if you are limited in access to a spotter or to a rack. This is a bridged floor press that you can do. But this is just to show you so I can get down in a position here, and then I can lift the barbell into position. You can see I'm in a bridge position here. I have my shoulders and all this stuff nice and tight. And then from here, I can do my bench pressing from here, like that. And then tense, I can bring it back down, and then I can sit and I can roll it off of me like that. So I'm able to do a bench press without a spotter, with that type of bench press. But it is, you probably want to use, preferable to use your bench and have a spotter for that. But that is the bench press. So that's another one of the core exercises. This is the best exercise for building upper body strength, right? Because of the amount of weight that you can put on there. You know, these guys that can bench 700 pounds, right? It's kind of unbelievable. I think people are benching that much. I think someone's even benched 1,000 pounds. Can you believe that? That's insane. Now, my preference for the pressing exercises is the overhead press. And so, again, this would normally be taken out of a rack position, but you can do it this way, which is nice because you can have a barbell in your garage, have some weights, and you can work up to being able to do your overhead press with from the ground. And the overhead press, to me, has more practical application because not only are you doing it standing instead of lying down, so it requires all this muscle activation in your torso to remain rigid, so that like from your shoulders down, you're like a steel beam, and then it's easier when you're rigid to lift more weight. Imagine trying to lift a certain amount, a heavy weight when you're like a noodle underneath it. The noodle would just collapse, right? So the standing press, overhead press, requires massive rigidity in your body. So you're getting this full body workout from shoulders down and shoulders up because of having to maintain this stiffness in your body. Also, I mean, I commented on this yesterday, like my wife, she likes to bake bread, and she has our bread, like her baking box is on the top shelf in our cupboard or our pantry, and the box is heavy, so you have to pull it down from overhead, right? So there's more reaching for things overhead, lifting things for overhead is just tends to be a more practical skill and practical type of strength than just this pure upper body strength that you get from the bench press. But each one of these core exercises has their application. So you would want to combine like the bench press and the overhead press into a program if you had the time. At the end of this, I'll just say what are the couple of, if you have a minimalist program, what are the core exercises that you should include in it? So let's get to the overhead press here. A couple of demonstrations of the overhead press. We're going to do a power clean here to get to that position. So I'm in my pressing position. You'd come in and get this out of the rack. You'd step back and then tighten everything up. Up. Bring it down. Up. Bring it down. One more. Up. Bring it down. And then, that's the overhead press with a barbell. It can be done with dumbbells with one arm. You can do dumbbell with two arms. You can do them with kettlebells. When we get to the kettlebell, I'll demonstrate some of those too. So we showed you a squat, a deadlift, a bench press, and an overhead press. These are like your four main lifts for building strength. You could add in pull-ups to this. That's can oftentimes considered more of an assistance exercise, but your pull-ups can be considered a core exercise if that is the focus of your program, is to get better at pull-ups. And then your pull-ups would be a core exercise. And you might do other exercises to assist getting better at pull-ups. But unless pull-ups are like your main focus, then pull-ups are generally more of an assistance exercise compared to this. So we covered in the body weight, we covered body weight squat, body weight push-up, and a hinge exercise for sort of your posterior chain, glutes and hamstrings, as well as sawing your back. The biggest thing about body weight exercises is there's not a great way for you to strengthen your back. So even if you're a fan of body weight exercises, you're more than likely going to want to include something like the deadlift in order to really strengthen that posterior chain. So that's, because the pistol squat and even the push-up, they will only get you so strong in that posterior chain. They'll make your squat strong. They can make your push-up super strong, but there's that weak link is this posterior, is like your back strength. So the deadlift is a great supplement to a solid body weight program for developing that back strength, right? Because even pull-ups, they're more of a pouring exercise, while the deadlift is really working those extensor muscles, maintaining neutral spine sort of thing. So the deadlift is one of those exercises you really want to have as part of your core exercises if you are a person who is into body weight exercises. Okay, so I did a power clean when we did the squats, but I'll just demonstrate it again here. And so the clean and jerk is an Olympic lift, and the snatch is an Olympic lift. So these two, the power snatch, are great exercises for developing power. And so I'll demonstrate the power clean. That's a more straightforward one than learning how to do the snatch. You take a basically a deadlift type stance for this, and then the bar is going to the cleaned position. So it's a power clean. So you're lifting the weight quickly from the ground. Whereas a deadlift comes to here, you're moving the weight all the way to your chest, which requires a great deal of force. Like that. So there you have a group of barbell exercises: deadlift, squat, bench press, overhead press, power clean. Okay? Core exercises to consider for building all full body strength and power with the power clean. All right. So kettlebell. Same idea, same exercises can be approached with a kettlebell. You can do a kettlebell deadlift, where again, hinging here at the waist, your hands are on the, you're going to feel the tension here in your hamstrings, and you're pulling the kettlebell back. Again, not instructional, just demonstrational. So just pushing the hips back, pulling the kettlebell back. So you can deadlift with the kettlebell to start learning how to deadlift. It's one way to start learning how to deadlift is using a kettlebell. Goblet squat is a squat variation you can use with a kettlebell. It's like the front squat in that the weight is in front of you, and you can get down nice here. Just adding a dimension to your body weight squat by adding weight. You can do a single kettlebell front squat with it just on one side like this. So you can move the position of the kettlebell and you have another front squat. You can get two kettlebells and do that. So again, kettlebells have a lot of variety that you can do with them. But again, same exercises. Remember, body weight, push-up, squat, hanging from a pull-up bar, doing pull-ups, and working on some sort of hip hinge. These are all working the same type of things, just different methods of doing them. But again, core exercises. So you can do with a kettlebell, you can do a floor press with a kettlebell. You can get it into position. Let me scooch back just a little bit here. You can get it into position. You can do this with two bells or one. You get it in position like this, and you can do floor presses with kettlebells, either one arm or two arm. Getting into position is a little bit harder with the two arm, so having someone help you with that is useful, or having a good way to get down and into the position. Weight comes into a factor with doing the 2-arm kettlebells because it can be very difficult to get into a position with 2 heavy kettlebells without hurting yourself. So you can do the press with a kettlebell as well, if you like. Then there is the overhead press. This is probably preferable with a kettlebell. So an overhead press. Like that. You switch arms. You can also do those double pressing overhead as well. The variations are, can come in as you advance, but the idea here is just showing you different modes that you can use. You can use this with the same exercise with dumbbells, right? So you can overhead press with a dumbbell as well. Just different instruments, same activities, same exercises. So we did a squat, we did a deadlift with a kettlebell. We're not going to get into swings or snatches because those are 2 other excellent exercises that you can use with a kettlebell and will train that hip hinge as well. But that's for another time. So then the clean, you can clean with a kettlebell as well. So you can get that cleaning action with that and not have to rely on having to have a barbell to do it. So you're same sort of thing. You can do, well, there's 2 ways to do this. You can do sort of like a dead clean where the kettlebell is like the barbell and you stand up quickly and bring the kettlebell up to you from a dead stop like that. So you see you're still moving the weight from the ground to the same rough position, approximate position. Then there is this swinging clean that you can do with kettlebells as well, which you're not able to do with a bar. So swing it between your legs and up into position like this. And so you're working that same power groove that you're working with the power clean. Like that. And so those exercises are some of the main exercises you'd want to include in your strength training program because they're full body exercises. They're multi-joint exercises. They recruit a lot of muscle and you can get the sort of biggest bang for your buck out of doing those exercises. When time is limited, you don't want to spend a bunch of time doing isolation exercises. The other thing is, unless you are like a bodybuilder and you are working on really defining all of the different muscles, then doing a lot of isolation exercise is a little counterproductive because you don't do, like in everyday life, you're not doing anything that is generally isolation exercises. That's just made me think of beer curls, right? You talk about beer curls at the end of the day. That's maybe one of the few times when, an isolation exercise comes into your favor. Otherwise, I'm talking about like, I'm going to pick up this kettlebell, but I'm, picking up my laundry basket, right? Boom. Here I'm picking up my laundry basket and I'm carrying it into the other room. It's not an isolation type of activity. And most of the sports we engage in are not isolated. So by doing these core exercises that are multi-joint, that require balance, that require coordination, you are training yourself to be more athletically capable when you're out in the everyday world. Sure, some isolation exercises can be helpful in terms of building balance, or just like, yeah, if you're really concerned about a certain, look on your physique, then you might do some isolation exercises for different body parts, calves, biceps, triceps, maybe your shoulders, whatever the case may be. But those exercises should come after you do your main exercises, which should be these core exercises: squat, deadlift, pressing exercises. And if pull-ups are like key on your agenda, pull-ups as well. Now, as I mentioned assistance exercises, I'm just going to mention one that I do. This is because pressing, like bench pressing and overhead pressing, focus a lot on your front and middle deltoids. A good exercise for working on your rear deltoids are doing dumbbell flies. And there's different hand positions that you can hold the weights in to get different effects. But so this is an assistance exercise just to get a little bit of work to help keep my shoulder joint safe and healthy. The bent over row can be another assistance exercise as a balance exercise for if you do a lot of bench pressing. The bent over row will help keep your upper back healthy and strong. It's an alternative to doing regular pull-ups, and actually doing a combination of a pull-up is more of a vertical pull, right? Whereas the bent over row is a horizontal pull. So I'll demonstrate that here for a second. So get it into position here like this, and then again, there's many ways to do this. I'm just demonstrating it with a barbell. You can use cables to do this and things like that. The point being that the combination of core exercises and assistance exercises are meant to build a whole, and the core exercises, again, focus on your multi-joint movements: squat, deadlift, bench press, overhead press. Can include pull-ups. You have your power cleans for converting strength into power, and that type of program you could just do from now until you are 6 feet under, and you should, because working on strength and hypertrophy and things like that will just improve the quality of life as you age. So, all right, I hope you found this helpful. These we went over core exercises that you want to include in a strength training program. We did bodyweight ones, push-ups, bodyweight squats, single leg Romanian deadlift. Those are sort of the three key bodyweight ones that we talked about. Then we did barbell ones, and again, squats. Showed you front squat and back squat. Showed you the deadlift, conventional deadlift and sumo deadlift. And then we did a bench press variation, because I don't have a bench press setup in here. This was a hip bridge bench press that you can do, but it's a quality exercise if you don't have a rack or anything like that, but have a barbell and some weights. Then we did the overhead press, and we did power clean. Oh, I forgot to say, we showed you the standing long jump as a sort of body weight version of the power clean that you can do for working power. Then we moved on to kettlebells, and we just showed you the same thing, how to do a kettlebell. We just demonstrated a kettlebell deadlift, a goblet squat, a front squat. We did a overhead. We did a floor press with the kettlebell. We did a overhead press with the kettlebell. We also did a couple of variations of cleaning the kettlebell. And so that is, so 3 different tools that you can use. You can also use dumbbells for a lot of this. A lot of the things that you could do with a dumbbell or with a kettlebell, you can do the same thing with a dumbbell. So you can stand a dumbbell on end and deadlift it like this to start with. You can do the squats with dumbbells. You can do all of the same exercises with dumbbells. Then we just showed a couple of assistance exercises, bent over row, a reverse fly for working on fixing imbalances that might come depending on the type of training that you're doing. So when you're choosing lifts, focus on the core lifts, what you want to accomplish. Get some instruction on how to do those lifts. This was not an instructional video. And then learn the basic exercises. And then when you get more skilled, you can add in variations so that you can have a little bit more variety in your training. But you want to, from now until, as I said, until you're just not able to lift another weight, you want to be doing these core exercises. They'll keep you healthy. They'll keep you strong. They'll keep you mobile. It can keep you flexible. And they'll just improve the quality of your life because you are physically capable to get out and do things. So if the last thing I want to say here, and this has gone on this has been about an hour of a thing, so I wasn't expecting that. But if you are pressed for time and you're like, okay, so there's all these different choices of what I should be doing, then I'm just going to use the barbell example, and then you can sort of extrapolate off of that. Or if you have questions, obviously email me. Not obviously, feel free to email me, or not email me, message me, Instagram, direct message me on Instagram, or send me a comment or a message on Facebook, a comment on YouTube, and I'll be happy to take the time to answer your questions and figure out and help you find sort of the right exercises for you. But if you want to break it down to sort of like the bare minimum of exercises that you can do, I would say as a barbell exercises, I would do your deadlift, and you can do an overhead press with this, but I would probably do the overhead press with dumbbells instead. So a minimum program, I would say, okay, deadlift for the barbell, and if you can, the power cleans. Then for my squatting, I would do kettlebell squats. I would do goblet squat. And then I would advance to double goblet squat or double kettlebell squats, like a front squat with double kettlebells. That would be a good thing to do. For my pressing, I would focus on doing overhead presses. So the overhead presses I'd focus on. If you want to do bench pressing, I would alternate some bench pressing with barbells and then overhead pressing with the kettlebell. And then I would do some pull-ups, some kind of pull-up thing, hanging from the pull-up bar, or if you're able to do pull-ups, doing pull-ups. Those would be the main exercises: deadlift, overhead press, do some goblet squats, some kind of squatting. And with the squatting, I would not necessarily even go heavy with the squatting. I would do I would tend to have the squat be part of my warm up, where I would do goblet squats as part of my warm up, right? And so I'd get a weight that I could do, a nice number of goblet squats with that as a warm up. So you're doing the squatting exercise, but I would focus my strength training on the deadlift and the overhead press. And then if you had more time, you could alternate bench press and overhead press and throw in some pull-ups. And that would be right there. That little nugget there would be a nice program to get you plenty strong. Bare minimum, forget the pull-ups, do your deadlifts and your overhead pressing, and do some squats as a warm-up. And that would be, those overhead pressing would do so much for your upper body that, pull-ups would become, would not be as necessary unless you wanted to do them. That is like minimal. If you had the time, I would definitely throw in the pull-ups. So, okay, let's call that quits for today. Again, my name's Henry Beyer. Thanks for being here. Just wanted to demonstrate some core exercises to you that you should, I would say, not even should, you really have to have in your strength training program. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me, and I will do my best to answer them. And then we'll look forward to seeing you on the next live episode whenever that happens. So folks on Instagram, again, thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time. And yes, I want to end that. And then for you Facebook and YouTubers, thanks for being here. And we will see you next time. All right. Have a great rest of your day. Cheers.